Chapter 53 to 54. Combat has started. Enemies. Bardock, LVL 14. 24,000 XP. Raditz, LVL 9. 6,000 XP. Bardock's eyes widened as the rush of energy exploding from my body hit him. The dusty ground was blown away around us, filling the air with dust. Raditz wasn't anywhere close to my own power level, but was definitely close enough to my mom's. Bardock, however, was stronger than I was, and had an entire lifetime of battles to feed his abilities. I was thankful I could increase my speed with my energy as my stats were abysmal. KLL, can we beat them? My mother asks, her own energy pushing towards max. You're better at sensing. I don't take my eyes off of them, but quickly whisper back. It'll be close. We'll win, but not without killing them both, and probably taking some damage. I'm sure as a 7-year-old, the energy I was putting out was intimidating. Regardless, it was clear that Raditz was itching for a fight, and Bardock had nothing to fear. My blood was pounding in my ears, adrenaline pouring into my system to feed an addiction I didn't remember having. The first fight for my life in 5 years was moments away. Codeword Unity, King's Orders 2A1. Password Prince Legend Rise. My mom suddenly yelled out. Bardock's eyes widened for a moment before he puts a hand on Raditz's shoulder and tapping on his own scouter. What the hell was that? I ask, not breaking eye contact with the two scions. I'm saving our lives. She whispers back. Prince Legend Rise, Bardock says, addressing his scouter. A moment passes before several emotions cross his face, from surprise to anger, to acceptance. His eyes lock onto mine for a moment, before looking at my mother. Stand down, Raditz, Bardock says, powering down as well. Father? What? Why? Raditz splutters. What was all that rubbish? King's orders, son, Bardock answers, glancing slightly at us. And as part of the King's orders, you two are to return to planet Vegeta with us. My mother nods, giving me a pointed glance. I consider the options for a moment, before lowering my power level as well. This was new, and I must admit to being curious. Not to mention there were 2 people heading for planet Vegeta eventually that I was looking forward to seeing. I didn't want to take a back seat on this, but I was willing to play along. Do you have pods? Bardock asks. We have one. Kalo can sit in mine with me. My mother says. I'm not sure that is advisable. I'll make a call for another pod. It'll be here in 36 standard hours. Bardock says. Until then, we'll just sit tight. 6 hours later. Not going to lie, it was mildly awkward spending time with people we were moments away from murdering. Thankfully, we managed to bond over the one thing all scions have in common, never-ending love of food. That didn't mean things were good, but it was at least less hostile. It was weird to know that in just a few hours we would be leaving our home for the past 7 years. How did you get so strong? Raditz asked me, having followed me outside, probably to keep an eye on me. I had hoped to get some time to work on sensing power levels from a distance, raise my perception a bit, but of course, the Scion soldiers couldn't leave us alone. I drink a lot of milk, I replied, and eat plenty of vegetables. A moment of silence passes, before he speaks again. Does this planet even have milk? My mom did, I reply. Gross, kid, he splutters, almost gagging. What the fuck? You asked, I reply, before sitting in the thin grass. That's fair, Raditz says, not moving from where he is standing. What was up with the code phrase your mom gave? No idea. I didn't know about it, I reply. Wait, what? She didn't tell you ahead of time? Raditz asks incredulously. That code phrase saved your lives. What if we had found you without her there to give the code phrase? Ha ha ha. I start laughing, before looking over my shoulder at him. As saved our lives? Ha ha. I was seconds away from turning you both into ash. Had I been more confident in my mom's ability to kill you, my mom wouldn't have bothered. She was worried because I said it would be close. Oh, fuck off with the bravado, kid. You're what? 6. Raditz laughs back. My father is the strongest scion in the Empire. You can't sense energy, can you? I ask, looking back up into the sky. What does that have to do with anything? He asks. I shake my head, ignoring the question. I wonder what happened to Bardock in my last life. By the time I made it to planet Vegeta, he wasn't alive. Kakarot was the strongest at that point, and he wasn't as strong as Bardock is now. I wonder. 30 hours later. I'm an idiot. I am an absolute idiot, and I hate myself for it. Of course, I can't sense shit off the planet. My perception is trash right now. I was so used to having high stats that I'd completely forgotten what low stats did. Granted, I hadn't really realized that my perception was holding me back until I was considering instant transmission. I got a huge bump when I first unlocked the ability, and a small bump each time I used it. I hadn't used it this life at all. I thought, concentrating on the back of Raditz. A new pod was going to crash land here momentarily, and then I'd be stuck in space until we arrived on planet Vegeta, where it was possible I could be trapped if I don't have access to the best move in the game. I locked onto his energy as we walked, slowly twisting my energy around until I felt it tug.
Bing.
You've gained 30 points in perception for identifying the unique feeling of another's power. With the smallest pop, I jumped forward about a foot, appearing right at his back. He glanced back at me as we made our way to the landing zone, frowning but didn't say anything. At the same moment, the galaxy opened for me, my senses lighting up with the little motes of energy for light years around us. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, I thought, feeling all the energy signals. I didn't recognize any of them, but the fact that I could tell the difference between them, planets away, meant I wasn't trapped anymore. However, we were also in a part of the galaxy that I didn't spend much time in during my first playthrough. A small worry lifted from my shoulders. I couldn't help but smile. Of course, my reverie was broken by a space pod slamming into the ground a dozen feet away, signaling the end of my childhood. Something awaited me on the other side of this trip, and whatever it was, I may find I don't like it. I'm going to lock both pods to my system. We'll land within minutes of each other. I'd suggest not leaving your pods till I come and collect you, Bardock says, entering information into his system. All 4 pods opened at the same time, several beeps chiming from each. I walked to the nearest one and plopped down, allowing the system to lock in. A few moments later, the artificial gravity kicked in, and we were skyward. Pod sleep is a weird experience. I didn't do very much of it in my last life since I could just pop off wherever I wanted or traveled by large ship. The pods, however, were slower, and it took time to get where you want to be. As we slowly made our way home, I couldn't help but think back to my past life. Vegeta's betrayal, the subsequent betrayal of his son. My brother now, I supposed. Would I be able to look these people in the eye and not hate them? I thought, drifting in and out of consciousness. Can I blame them for the things that transpired in my past life, or should I only judge them on what they have done in this one? It was a tough question to ask, but an even harder question to answer. While the people here and now have yet to commit these horrible acts against me, they still did in the past. I could only hope that when I finally stood before them, I'd be able to control myself. I had yet to experience the rage that Broly had dealt with, but I also had not yet had reason to truly explode. 10 minutes to landing. Planet Vegeta. The space pods broke through the atmosphere, streaming through the air on course for the large landing pad at the capital. We had been awake for only a few minutes and would be landing in less than 30 seconds. With a loud thump, my pod slammed into the landing pad, the special polymer absorbing most of the kinetic energy. A moment later, it came to a rest, the door hissing as the pressure inside is released. Gravity reasserts itself, my weight increasing several times over. I had to push a bit of energy into my limbs to get my going. I step out, seeing Bardock already speaking to one of the dock workers. Raditz climbs out of his own pod, my mother appearing from hers shortly after. After Bardock finishes, he motions us all to follow him, and he begins to lead us off the landing pad. It was nice to return to planet Vegeta after nearly a decade of being gone. I was hopeful that in this life, I could keep the planet from being destroyed, perhaps stop the body before Majin Buu is released. We're led down a set of stairs, which leads to an underground tram station of sorts. I can't say I ever used it before, just flying everywhere I wanted to go before. My mother keeps looking back at me as we walk, tears in her eyes. I suspect that after a lifetime here, being back would mean even more to her than it did to me. The tram trip was only a few minutes, zipping across the city, before stopping at a spot that I was intimately familiar with. I had spent nights in the healing pods, hours in the throne room. Of course, after its relocation to planet Sion, I spent a year in the throne room, doing my best to save the Scions. I felt my mom's eyes on me once more, confusion emanating from her at the look on my face. I shook my head in silence as we were slowly let in. Guards lined the entryway as we entered, steely eyes all locked on my mother and me. The lights were low, but not dark. The throne room was slightly different from what I expected, a single throne instead of the dual thrones of my time. Under normal circumstances, I would say that this is because Indivaya is perhaps only 10 years old at the moment, but it isn't Vegeta sitting upon the throne. As we enter, the energy I had been sensing finally makes sense to me. "We have arrived, my king," Bardock says before he and Raditz stepped off to the side. A set of beady eyes stare back at mine, before slowly turning to face my mother as well. "Thank you, Captain," Nappa says before he stands, his figure towering over all of us. One unexpected turn of events. The traitor, and the anomaly returning at last. "Where is Vegeta, Nappa?" My mom asks. "Vegeta? He was executed for allowing you to escape the planet with your freak child, once the truth was uncovered," Nappa says, laughing. "A king is king only while the population allows it." His hypocrisy did not stand well with the people. WW hat. My mom exclaimed, Regardless, now I have to decide what to do with you, Nappa says, ignoring my mom. I'm thinking public execution. If I may interrupt? I ask, speaking up for the first time since we arrived. Oh, so he does speak, Nappa replies. I was beginning to wonder if Vegeta's broken spawn was mute. Go ahead, little guy. Give us your last words while you have time. Right, yeah. Last words. It's sad actually that your last words will be, what? I say offhandedly. Nappa's eyes narrow. What? The air around me cracks as I shove nearly a third of my power into the palm of my hand, the blast of energy engulfing Nappa before anyone in the room can react. At the same time, I'm already moving, my hand clamping down on my mother's wrist, my concentration on the only energy signal I could pick up at such a distance. With a sharp pop, we were gone, leaving tragedy and devastation in our wake. Hidden event, the False King plus 2500 XP. Killed Nappa, plus 3200 XP. Dash 3700/2000 XP to level 2. Level up alert. We appeared with a soft pop, the pitch black room dank, musty, the fetid air nearly burning my nose. There is a loud clang of chains as someone is jerked awake, the sudden appearance of my mother and I shocking them to consciousness. Who? He whispers, his voice barely strong enough to be heard even in such a small place. With the slightest pulse of my power, my aura lit up, giving the room a soft greenish glow. I go to move forward, but my mom's hand snatches my arm, pulling me back. What is happening? Who is this? I don't immediately answer, my eyes still locked on the figure before us. His unkempt hair is filthy, nearly caked with dirt and blood, a slurry of mud. The chains on his wrists have shredded them, the constant pulling having failed to break them, only doing more damage. Even now blood slowly leaks from the freshly broken skin, his earlier movements having opened the wounds once more. What did they do to you? I ask, watching the man closely. He doesn't answer, face down towards the floor. I consider asking again, but I wait. We don't have long, but we have enough time for him. This man had once upon a time died for his people. If anyone deserved time, it was him. They kill my friend. I tried to avenge him. I wasn't strong enough. He whispers. Why didn't they just kill you? I ask, curious. I'm a war hero, my family is well known. He whispers, his head hanging even lower in defeat. I killed Nappa just moments ago. If you want, I can free you, and we can escape this wretched planet together. I reply. The man looks up, at last, his face a mess of scars, a single eye staring at me, studying me. My name is KLL, and I am the son of Vegeta, I explain. Yes, I see you recognize the name. Then know this, I am not an anomaly. I am the legendary Super Saiyan. So I'll ask again. Will you come with us, Kakarots? I heard my mom gasp behind me, assuming she recognizes the name. Kakarot studies me for a moment, before just barely nodding his head. I swiftly move over to the chains holding him in place, reaching out to break them. They absorb power. They can't be broken. He whispers, watching me. I know, I reply. I had worked with these chains long ago. They had a limit to how much power they could absorb, and with how strong Kakarot was, they were over 50% saturated as it was. Reaching down, I grab the first chain, feeling the pull of my energy into the devices. With a burst of energy, the chains shattered completely, barely fine dust being left over. A repeat with the second, and Kakarot was a free man. My mom had moved over, and was already helping him to his feet. I quickly tapped on the level up alert, and dropped my points as needed. With perception being bumped to over 40 now, I could feel my ability to read energy at a distance nearly double. I click finalize, and my power level doubles, a surge of power coursing through my body. Most of my current energy comes from my battles and EM, so leveling gave me a huge boost. As the world snaps back into focus, I reach out both hands to the other members of the cell. Are you two ready? My mom is doing surprisingly well at adjusting to the new world that has opened up before her. A world where her son can teleport, kill kings, and find long-lost friends. She nods, stepping forward, and taking my hand. Kakarot studies my hand as well, before taking it. Energy floods my body as I lock on to a far distant energy. This one was going to be a bit costly, but no more than 20% of my energy. It wasn't quite at the max distance of my ability to sense energy, but had I not gotten the points for leveling, I would not have had this option. Say goodbye to Planet Vegeta. And with another pop, we were gone, almost as though we had never been there, to begin with. Time Nest 3 years from now. What do you think it means, Elder Kai? Cronoa asks, studying one of the many time scrolls. I'm not sure yet. Something or someone is breaking down the barriers between the time streams. Elder Kai replied, I've never seen anything like it. What can we do then? Trunks asks, looking around the room at the multitude of glowing scrolls. We can't even track whoever is doing this. Well, there are some time streams left untouched. If you enter one of them and wait, whatever is happening elsewhere will happen there as well. Elder Kai explains. Perhaps if you experience it, we will be able to track the source. Alright, I can do that. Should I take a few of the other patrollers? He asks as he turns towards the door. Yes, please. We don't know what could possibly be causing this issue. I think you'll need help. Cronoa says as Trunks leaves. Silence fills the room as another scroll lights up, showing it's now also broken. Of the many scrolls, less than 100 remain intact. We're all going to need help,